Vlad, we just started recording.
Hi there, beautiful brothers and sisters, and welcome back to Esoteric Sci, the community institution and school where we increase and strengthen the consciousness of our community through starting a dialogue about esoteric wisdom, ancient wisdom, philosophy, psychology, and spirituality. So you can, in a practical way, so you guys can apply it in your everyday life. I am Alex. I'm a therapist and an astrologer as well. And with me today as co-host is Miss Whitney. She's been a massage therapist for many years. She's also a phenomenologist in training, a yoga teacher as well, and also training to be an astrologer. Miss Whitney, how are you today? Talk to me.
I'm good. How are you?
Great. I literally just woke up half an hour before this. So yeah,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
glad I didn't miss this. um, who do we have with us today, Miss Whitney? Can you introduce the guest, please?
We have with us today Vladimir Angert, who is my teacher, longtime teacher. I mean, I guess it's been like 5 or 6 years. How old is Emma?
Emma's 8. That's
Oh my
how
God, it's been like 7.5 years.
So when he introduces you, you should definitely say a student of realized medicine as well.
True. Anyway, so today we have with us Vladimir Angert, my teacher and friend, and we're excited. Everyone is excited. Hi, Vlad.
Yes, Vlad's been with us. I think this is like the 4th time he's on it, and it's a joy having him every time. It's like ask Uncle Vlad, who's got a direct connection to source. Essentially, he's a inventor of realized medicine, and if you guys want more of an introduction from him, he's a medium and spiritual healer. But you can go back and listen to any of the other episodes where we've had him on and see his curriculum and his everything that he does. Mr. Vlad, today we're talking about community. So I'm really glad that you're here to share with us about how community influences your life, your culture, your everything. What is community to you, and how do you think it influences a person's life, Mr. Vlad?
It's one of the most important aspects of spiritual growth. Community, I gauge where I'm going to live based on community. If I can't be around people that are like-minded, for me to live, to choose an apartment or a house to live in based on the closest supermarket or gym or mall, would be meaningless, because I'm a father, I have children, so I want my children to be able to be around like-minded people who have the same goals, who have the same standard, and not necessarily even moral standard, just a standard in life. Can I ask you to move over so that your head is blocking that thing? It's not looking at me. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Was it creeping out, or did you get a weird energy vibe from it?
Low vibe. So.
Okay. I'll be sure not to have it in my office when I move next month.
I appreciate it. So communities is utmost importance, because if you're by yourself, it's very hard to maintain your commitments. But if you have people around you that have the same goals and the same practice and the same methods of connecting, let's say, for instance, let's take Whitney, for instance, right? She practices Kriya Yoga. Well, it's great to be able to get up in the morning and to do a Kriya for say self-maintenance and self-care. But then if you don't have anyone to discuss with and go over the details of the benefits and the lifestyle, you're raising your vibration, putting the light on, and then you're having to dumb down to be around people who are not interested, who live a completely practical, material, mundane life. So to answer your question, I choose my residence based on where within walking distance of a synagogue, because I pray every day and I want to be able to walk to the synagogue. And so in Judaism, I don't want my children on Shabbat when we're not using, when we're disconnecting from habitual slave behavior to go across to play with children that are not following the same parameters and the same ideas, that are not living within boundaries of conscious boundaries. Now, somebody who's listening would say, well, who says they're conscious boundaries? Well, if you look at whatever religion you are as a technology that maintains the internal light, which gives you a path and a way, then that's how you choose your community. You want your children, or when you're living in a community, when you're single, it's different. You can live next to a supermarket and you're happy, so long as you can go next door to a bunch of restaurants or the center of town. That's how people choose where to live. But when you have a family and you have children, you want your kids to be, if people are Catholic, they want their neighbors to be of the same belief system, so that the children interact in church and they have a similar understanding, they have similar habits. And that's what maintains a community. It's a common denominator and a common thought process which maintains a vibrational state.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Trying to think of the best way to phrase this. So you follow Judaism, but your comprehension of the rituals and things is slightly different than most people who follow the same rituals.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that like? What is that like? How do you find a community in that way?
Because we know each other, it's easy for me to answer that, because you know how I roll, right? So I don't very often, if I'm in a community and it's a dry community of folks that are just going through the motions and are religious, so they don't know why they're doing what they're doing, they're just doing it. So I then create a community within a community. Mm-hmm. I start going to, let's say, to synagogue, and I go to events and people gravitate towards me and ask me questions. Most of the time I avoid being the center of attention. I say, people ask me what I do. I say I manufacture shoelaces. But when I get into serious conversations with people, they clearly understand that I'm not.
You're not a shoelace maker.
Right, exactly. My shoelaces are glowing in the dark. So they're, so to finish answering your question, it's different. It's really different. Even though I practice, the structure of Judaism provides me with a technological way of being consciously correct and vibrationally higher in my standard. So having special abilities doesn't mean anything. You have to maintain them with a lifestyle and a standard that maintains your vibrational way. So people say, oh, I'm a medium, I'm a clairvoyant. So what? What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. You understand? So if you want to be able to use the abilities that you came with, that are provided to you from your soul, because my brain isn't doing the things that I'm doing every day, it's my soul. So then I need to maintain my soul. Then I need a practice, and I need a ritual life. I need a structure that keeps me, that maintains that part of me that is able to do these things. Especially for alternative practitioners, if you're a psychologist, then you're reading from a book and you're going based on
different. It is more intellectual.
Right, it's different. But if you're a phenomenologist and you claim to have phenomenal abilities, and you're using otherworldly talents and abilities that you might have developed or learned a structure that you use to help other people, well, then be what you say that you are. You can't ask other people to be what it is that you're not doing, and not do what you're claiming. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's another conversation.
So for myself, as an example, oh, sorry, Alex, did I cut you off?
No,
Alex,
you never have to apologize. We're co-hosts. It's all the same here. So
okay.
finish your line of questioning, and then I'll begin.
Okay. For myself, as an example, like I use Kundalini yoga on a daily basis for refinement and to just tap in and soothe my nervous system. But I also have committed rituals that are Jewish. So, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on like having these rituals that you have a comprehension of the meaning and they serve a purpose and you are using them to connect with God, but like I haven't converted to Judaism.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
So I can tell you that I was born with special abilities, right? But I didn't become observant until 2006, consistently observant, right? And then I kind of fall off and I go back and pick up more observance. What that means is that your soul your soul's sense of truth recognize a technology that resonates with your sense of truth and technologically makes sense when you read it and you understand what it's for. You use it for your rituals and to maintain the vibration of your soul. Kundalini yoga is wonderful, but it's for strengthening your energy. It's really it's a technological workout for your soul's energy, strengthening the arc line, for healing the nervous system, which is the main component of our sanity, emotional and physical and spiritual. So Kundalini yoga is great, but if you're just doing Kundalini yoga and you have no ritual resolve and you don't have a system through which you maintain your vibration as you have chosen, the conversion process will come. Why? Because eventually you'll say to yourself, well, I'm using this and I'm using this. Either I'm doing it or I'm not doing it. Either you're this or you're not, right? You can't, we both know this, that people that have a potpourri of different disciplines, they want to use Buddhism for this and Hinduism for that and Kundalini for this. And it's nonsense. Why? Because there's no commitment to a way. So if you understand that all these ways are vibrational, so then if that way's texture, the way that you choose, the texture of it resonates with your sense of truth, well, then use that way. Don't dabble, because then you're not giving your fullest attention, your energy to that way. Then that way can't provide for you. So you end up intermittent and scattered in your physical reality. People don't realize it's directly connected to the results in your life, with finances, with a mate, with a group, with a support system, with your surroundings. You can use crystal and stick them in your ear. They don't mean anything. I'm a crystal healer. So what? What does that do? For who? It doesn't mean anything. When you have a system and you consistently maintain your energy with Kriya Yoga, well, now you need your stimulating energy and you're cultivating it. Well, now you need resolve. You can't just constantly cultivate energy, because where's it going to go? So through Judaism, you resolve. You have Rosh Hashanah, the new year. 9 days, you have an opportunity to resolve all of your attachments, your bad feelings, your hurt feelings. It's a technology that's psychologically, consciously correct. You have an opportunity. It's a framework. It's a bigger spiritual psychology than any framework from Freud or Jung or anybody else, because it came directly from the source. So then it gives you an opportunity to resolve, right? Every year, you call your loved one and say, you take responsibility for your actions. I ask for an apology and I take responsibility, which means I understand that I'm a realized person, that my conflict with you didn't just happen to me, it happened as a result of me. So it gives me a chance to resolve and empty out any bad feelings in my heart and my mind. When I resolve with you, your picture and our conflict is no longer in my mind, and it's not taking up space in my intellect and my heart. I now have new space for new energy. Then comes Yom Kippur after the 9 days, where the light of the Creator shines 1,000 degrees brighter. Since I've emptied out for 9 days, it's a very heavy period. If you ask even non-Jews, it's an extremely heavy period, actually, from the 9th, 15th of August. So then Yom Kippur, which is the day of atonement, you're going to be placed in the book of life.
Yeah.
Crock of shit. Why? Because it's mediocre, small-minded thinking. There's no book. It's literally the intensity of the flow is so expanded that it literally parallel. You can't do anything even if you try. Non-Jews have no chance of function because the light is so bright. You become disheveled because you're in the process of resolve, of emptying out. And that bright light replenishes your soul and you expand for the coming year. So my mother called me once and says, I went to a synagogue and this simple rabbi was talking about that on Yom Kippur, God is going to decide how much money you're going to make next year. So I started laughing. She goes, well, when are you going to start teaching your way, the technological way? I said, Mom, why do you think you encountered this person? She said, well, my mother, you know my mother, she's brilliant. She understands everything. She said, well, why do you think I encountered this person? I said, well, because you intellectually know what you're supposed to do, but you're not living the lifestyle. It's the lifestyle and the ritual and the commitment to the lifestyle that raises your vibration through action, through commitment. When your vibration is up here, well, then you can use those conscious technological tricks, so to speak, to be able to use them to your benefit. But if you're trying to use consciously on the law of attraction or all this nonsense that's being pitched in the wellness world, you can't use that up here while you're living down here.
Yeah. It makes you the fueler of it. It's like
Right.
you're fueling it with your own intellect.
You're
as
not an
opposed
unlimited source. There's some folks out there that have a big gas tank. They're going to peel out. They know how to create. The reason, getting back to your question, you chose it because it resonates with your sense of truth and you understand the value and the deep texture of the ritual. It's not just a religion for you. So eventually what it does, it chisels away everything that isn't you, right? Because it makes you get honest with yourself. And then you say, you know what? What's conversion? What does it do? Why is the conversion process for a year? I don't want to end up talking about Judaism because our audience is going to think I'm pitching Judaism. No, the point is the refinement process, because you start doing these rituals, it collects you from the human experience. It collects you from impulsive life, from looking at things that you're not supposed to, from breaking habits, from being a slave of your iPads and the televisions and all this other nonsense. It collects you, so it gives you a bigger energy. That means there's freedom within boundaries. People want to practice a potpourri of kumbaya spiritualism. It doesn't mean anything. It's spiritual materialism. All they want to do, I am a meditator. And so what? What does that do? Nothing. It doesn't do anything. If you have a practice meditating, and as you do through Kriya, I believe that the Sikhs have their finger on the pulse of what's up. Yeah. They are, I'm telling you, next to Judaism, they are really tuned into what's up.
Yeah, the Japji is amazing.
That's amazing. I lived with them in New Mexico. I lived in New Mexico for 4 years, and then I did an immersion with them in Española. I did 2 years of teacher training, and I've been doing Kriya, I don't know, since 1998. It's a great support system. I don't do Japji and I don't kneel or bow to gurus because I'm not a Sikh. But the system is beautiful and smart and consciously correct. And it's intentional.
So I think it's very important to identify that what Vlad said is whatever religion is you're called to is the correct one for you.
Absolutely. Whatever you're born into is the correct one for you.
I was born into Christianity.
Yeah, I was born Catholic, and I don't resonate very much with the Catholic vibe. But
you know, Christianity in my mind now, when I read the New Testament, I see like this was intended in my mind. I know this is gonna like this is blasphemous, but in my mind, this was intended to be mystic Judaism that got altered or like interpreted incorrectly.
So it wasn't, I don't think it was interpreted incorrectly because the master of Christianity was a Jew. It was just
politicized with Constantine and all that, right?
So no, the master of Christianity was Jewish. The issue is that he was fully realized, and his disciples, his students, chose to practice a realized structure devoid of a lifestyle. So I'll give you an example. Christianity, this mystical Christianity, you know, Yogananda Paramahansa, he loved Christ, and his conscious Christianity is incredible. Ernest Holmes, who channeled,
the Science of the Mind.
Science of the Mind, it's beautiful. I mean, it's so consciously correct, meaning it's not bullshit made up by people. It has a texture, and it's correct in the way it looks at reality. It's not some cartoon that the master of Christianity is coming out of Nazareth, no less, Israel, with bugles and angels on the side when he comes back. That's a cartoon, you understand? So when you look at a religion, it gives you spiritual support. I had one of my kids in Boston went to a friend's house, and his mother, and the kid's mother said to one of my children, "Are you eating dinner with us?" And my daughter said, "Thank you so much. We don't eat pork." She says, "Honey, don't worry. Jesus said the soul doesn't eat." Jesus said that? I mean, it's ludicrous because it's not an interpretation. It's people that simplify a conscious tool, a manual, to make it more humanly attainable. So they have to observe less boundaries, and consciously they stop being aware of their behavior, because that's what it's really for, all the commandments and all that. So the idea is, how can it be possible that, what do you mean the soul doesn't eat? What does that mean? Everything you put in your body either gives you energy or it doesn't. So how can you say, Jesus said that? He was a devout Jew. How could he possibly have said that?
Yeah, what was the Last Supper? Passover.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the idea is that if you come into this world as a Christian or a Catholic, then there's a process of devotion in Catholicism that your soul requires. If you come in as a Christian, then that's what you require. There's mystical Christianity, and it's not simple, minded and makes it as if it's some contrived movie. It's practical, it's realistic, and you can practice it. I think the best versions that I've ever read are Ernest Holmes and Yogananda.
That's Michael's, like, that's what he's leaning to.
Yogananda was fully realized.
Is like mystic Christianity.
It's beautiful. I mean, if you love the master, then you love the master. It is what it is. And then that's what your soul needs in this life. That's why your soul gravitated toward Judaism, and it makes conscious sense. It resonates with your sense of truth. Some folks, the biggest religion, the fastest growing religion in the world is Islam. And those people need camaraderie. They need, their soul needs to completely nullify themselves. They don't know how to be halfway. They need an extreme. They need to pray 5 times a day not to be savages.
That's actually
Islam brings order. I mean, they have order. You understand? The men pray 5 times a day. Then you don't have time for anything else when you're praying 5 times a day. That's why the Arab Muslim countries are so wealthy.
When I was going through certain degrees in Freemasonry, one of my instructors said that I have to spend time with a religion that's not mine. So it was difficult to find a Jewish community, so I went with the Islamic community here in Guadalajara, and I spent some time with them, and I really enjoyed like all the community that they have, and I started like analyzing their text, and I realized a lot of the text is rules for how to live in community. Like it's a lot of it is like, this is how you get along. This is what you do in this situation. This is how you handle this. So it made sense that, that they're so successful and so expansive in that aspect, because most of these are laws for living in community. And I found, great peace in how they would get along with each other, and they accepted me. I didn't my wife wasn't too hot on how they treated their women, and their view of how that they needed to separate each other and such. And that's actually why I ended up not converting, because the life seems great for the men. It doesn't seem in general so hot for the women, but obviously if we had a Muslim woman, she might disagree, because for many reasons, right?
It'd be interesting if you had spent time with like a Sufi community. That's the mystic interpretation. It would be interesting to see like how the women are treated with an elevated interpretation of that text.
So my view, if you're interested, is that in Islam, that which created them separated itself. So they're relegated to the human experience, and they're not connected through a flow. They don't subscribe to an energetic flow that consistently sustains them. And so the co-creators of reality, which are women that constantly bring life into the world, they're not honored, even though today's, there's a guy on YouTube who adores his wife. I love watching them. They're a couple from United Arab Emirates, UAE. They're hilarious. I mean, so like everyday couple, and the women have accepted certain parameters, but the belief is that women bring life into the world, into the human experience, so they perpetuate birth. So Allah cursed them, from what I understand, that's why birth is so painful, and they're cursed with a period, their monthly period, which insinuates that bringing life into the world is not the best thing, that it's better to be there with Allah or Muhammad than to be here in the human experience. So while they're here, they're minimized.
I have a question on this though, because that is in the Torah also.
Wow.
That women will have pain in childbirth, and they'll what's the other verbiage, like their desire will be for their men.
Their desire will be for their men because that's the way it's intended. It's not a punishment. How's that?
But what I'm asking is, how did that wording come to be? Because the Old Testament and like the Torah, the English version of the Torah that I have, they all, like, everything refers to this as a curse.
I think what's happening, she's not just referring to like their desire will be for their men, because the desire for men is for the women as well, but that they have painful childbirth, and that because Eve fell from grace and stuff, so there were certain punishments that were put upon the female.
It's not a punishment to give birth. That's ridiculous. And
it's painfully though, painfully.
Painful birth.
Well, remember that painfully, the reason it's painfully because they're so elevated. They live in their feelings first and foremost. They're so elevated that the human experience of bringing life into the world refines them, and the refinement process is painful. So if you look at a woman right before she's about to give birth, the pregnancy makes them detached, aloof. They're not attached to emotional ups and downs. They're just, wobbling around. they're kind of, they're not. Some are stressed out. I mean, people are different. People are people, right? But for the most part, what I've been exposed to, women are sweeter and kinder and nicer. Even if they're uncomfortable, they become different emotionally. So the birthing process, creating a life or bringing it into the world, makes them emotionally different. So the process of being like God, because the highest the highest expression of God's love is the mother, because she's able to create. So when you become a creator, that's painful. You're a co-creator of a life, not just reality. You're bringing a physical life into the world. That automatically makes you a channel for the creative force. That's why they're so intuitive and can literally manifest anything.
Give me a second, Whitney. Just a quick parentheses in all this. There are many ways to interpret text, and what Vlad is referring to when he interprets everything is the highest, or the spiritual version of this. Just for general viewers out there, there is a literal way to interpret the text, like it's narrating like a movie or a series of events that happened, but there's also a deeper inner meaning of what's happening inside you than just moving around you. Philosophical ways of interpreting the text. There's divine, energetic ways of. There's how many ways total is there supposed to be?
As many as there are people.
Yeah. So this is something, for example, that a lot of there's so many sects of Christianity because they have different ways of interpreting the text, right? So there, of course, there's going to be a little bit of conflict because people have different ideas or different understandings. And are they wrong? Are some wrong or some right? Sorry.
Oh, it's what you can relate to. When I first started learning Judaism, one of the guys that I was teaching, I was a learning partner. He said, when you do this prayer, you have to stand as if you're in the presence of royalty, of a king. I've never seen a king in my life. I grew up in a communist country. And then I moved to Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, with a bunch of gangsters. And everybody's father was a mobster. I don't know anything about a king. I don't stand up for anybody. What are you talking about? I couldn't relate to that. So everyone, it's not that everyone has a different interpretation. It's a question of the light of your soul. The light of your soul dictates what interpretation and the level of a teacher that you're going to engage with. My mother is brilliant, and she understands texture. She's extremely intuitive, and she's conscious about the existence of extraordinary things. I'm her son, right? So she's been around healing and psychic and all that and phenomenon most of my life, but yet she encountered in those days a teacher who was talking mundane nonsense, that God's going to decide how much money you're going to make next year. It's what does it say? It says that her light, her ritual life, her physical observance that keeps her vibration up is not being maintained. She just intellectually understands it, but she's not living a lifestyle. So she encounters a teacher that speaks to her sense of truth. You understand? So then it's not as if there are many interpretations, but this is how we know it's that Torah was given to humanity, not just to the Jews, because it speaks to every man, whatever your intellect or the brightness of your light. I don't know if it's English, if that's proper English, but I have a 9th grade education. That my education is meaningless because my light is brighter. I see the texture of it. And now there are more people like me that are looking for texture, not religiosity. And so they're quick to go and eat ayahuasca and take frog poison instead of having a consistent lifestyle and understanding from a consciously correct document that was downloaded by a master prophet. You understand? So that's why there's so much potpourri of disciplines, because people are avoiding boundaries, and they'd rather something that, a trip on ayahuasca is better than having correct boundaries or living a lifestyle, or becoming an observer of your behavior. That's spiritual work. If I pause by my door and acknowledge that thing that's on the door in the Jewish household, that's a pausing exercise, an opportunity for me to acknowledge that something greater than myself is constantly participating in my process. Moreover, on an energetic and intellectual level, I'm acknowledging that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Meaning, I'm grateful for where I am in gratitude, I receive energy. While I'm here and not complaining that I should be somewhere other than where I am, it's a practice that keeps me in the now. The power of now, Eckhart Tolle. I mean, it's a 3,782-year-old text. Eckhart Tolle didn't discover America. He just wrote a snippet. He materialized, he cashed in on a snippet of what's in the Torah. The corner of my nail. I read The Power of Now. So fucking what? So it's a what? And do you practice the power of now? Are you an observer of your own behavior? Are you constantly aware of the fact that you constantly create stories about, we're going to New York City and there's going to be traffic? No, there isn't. There's not going to be traffic. You choose traffic. You choose constant obstacles when you become an observer, a consistent observer, which the text gives you. It gives you a technology on how to become an observer of your own behavior.
You told me one time, as we're talking about the Eve scenario of being punished or cursed or whatever, I'm remembering we've discussed this before, and you said to me, you have to reframe it as if Eve made the choice to enter the human experience.
Yeah, because wanting takes you out of the now. She wanted to usurp the knowledge of God. She wanted to be like God, to know what's going to be. The moment you and I decide, I want to know where I'm going to live a year from now. No, so then I'm no longer in alignment. I'm not receiving energy. I atrophy and become more physical material.
Yeah, this is a daily choice.
More of a body.
It's a daily choosing.
It's a choice second by second.
Right. If you're going to eat the apple or just live in faith or connection.
Okay. It's not so much faith. I really want to address that. It's not. It's understanding, because how can, human beings are expected to have faith in what?
Yeah.
Look at reality. War, government. Look at our government. They lie constantly. They make us take stuff that we're not supposed to have in our bodies. They exaggerate. Everything is a lie. So then how can an average human being have faith in what? Something that you can't see? But if I understand something, that understanding, you can't take that from me. When I saw Master Soul and I had a concrete interaction 30 times, what are you going to say to me? I have such conviction in what I know, there's nothing you can say to me. Well, then, because I understand it and it's mine. You can talk to your blue in the face. I'm not getting a vaccine. I'm not wearing a mask because I have conviction in what I believe. You understand? So having faith is really, to me, there are other people that think otherwise. It's my personal experience that when I understand something, it's easier for me to believe. I see it. I see it in my daily life. My practice, my commitment, my devotion has made me more effective in my practice. I treat people and they get healed faster. I can see better. I'm not getting increments of information in my practice. I stand in a room of information because I fuel that which gives me those abilities. I'm an observer, a constant observer of my behavior. I'm a constant observer of what it means to be realized. If something is unfolding, it's God speaking to me.
Can I ask you a question about that though? Why do you wear glasses if you are kind of realized and your health is optimal and all that good stuff?
Because I did a lot of drugs, son.
Okay. And
I wear glasses because I watch a lot of porn. And they say in my neighborhood, when you whack off the porn, you lose your eyesight.
Okay. So it's kind of...
You can have your guy edit it out, but the truth is, look, when you do things, I'm going to give you a technological structure. When you do things in life that lower your vibration, just because I have abilities, I'm not absolved from the human experience. The reason I know these things, because I literally experience them on myself. I know because I didn't read somebody else's experience and didn't study with some shaman from the Amazon. I did it. That's how I know. So then the things, the practices that I had in my life and the things that I did lowered my vibration, and the eyes are an expression of the soul's intent to see. And so when they lowered, you lower, even though I still have special abilities, because my light is gives me a broader view of reality, my physical body starts to show signs of the constant messing with the light. So then the expression of sight, my soul's expression of sight, has issues seeing things that are right in front of me. If you ask someone, are you nearsighted or farsighted? Right? I'm nearsighted. I can't read what's up close. What does that say? If you realize, it means that it's directly in front of me and I'm too busy looking ahead, so I'm not recognizing what's directly in front of me. That's why I need glasses.
Yeah, there are some gurus that are paraplegic. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Whitney. There are some gurus, like for example, what's his name? The guy that's in a wheelchair, wrote a whole bunch of books in the 70s, hung out with. Well, both him and his teacher had issues with being able to walk, and they do seem to be fully realized beings. And his guru actually said, you have about a year to get ready before you lose your ability to walk. And he was like, yeah, whatever, I'm not. And then he did. So is that, like, karma is action and reaction, right? You do something and then something happens. And I mean, he did do a lot of LSD, a lot of drugs. I don't know, what's your take on that, on that action and reaction? Because apparently you did some stuff that was not optimal, that brought your soul vibration down or whatever. And so it's a physical consequence necessarily paid in this lifetime, or if you do enough good or enough energy work, can you get over that? Or how do you understand that to be?
I believe that there's a way that we're responsible for correcting. But what I found through my own experience is that the response to derouting is quicker when you know the truth. So once you're exposed to the truth and you still deroute, if you know that weed numbs your heart and exaggerates your intellect, and that you're still continuing to smoke, then the responses are that the weed exaggerates and makes you so conspiratory that you destroy your relationship. That's the punishment. It's not as if some guy in the sky is punishing you, but it's a result of you not recognizing that it's not for you. It doesn't work. It numbs you emotionally. It exaggerates your intellect. It causes your nervous system to be afraid because you're overanalyzing everything that's in front of you. And you start to conspire against your loved ones and you push away. So you create a separation between you and your loved ones. If you don't hear the message and you're that dense, you're going to end up by yourself. And then you justify it and say, well, look, I'm spiritual. I need to be by myself to pursue my path. Whatever helps you sleep, son.
Yeah, we're not here to be popular, I don't think. And this isn't going to be very popular at all, but I'm glad we're speaking the truth. Go for it, Miss Whitney.
I was just going to say that there's no, like, we're still humans. We're in
I love you, bro. I really am. I'm starting to love you, bro. I love your disclaimers.
There's no amount of like, in this lifetime, I don't think there's any amount of oh, sorry, that was probably a lot, like refinement that removes all of our human obstacles.
Of course not, because
this is like this is a thing though, that what happens is that people hear information within these types of discussions that they don't like and that is upsetting. And so what they do is they say, look at this fucking idiot. He's blind. Why would I even listen to him? Or like, look at her. She has an ovarian cyst. She's an idiot.
They find ways to punch holes in our humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's
With
fine. But like we're still in the human experience. There's no way to get out of that. So the choice is to either be upset that you're having these physical obstacles and feel victimized by them, or choose to see that they serve a purpose. And in that choice, some occasionally you can move past them and refine out of that experience.
you can move forward. If just to comment on what you're saying, it's once you become aware of that shortcoming, right? Then you can you can become, remember John Goodman? I'm Shomer Shabbos.
Yeah.
I don't bowl on
I don't
Shabbos.
roll on Sabbath.
Right, so what is Shomer? Shomer means an observer. I become an observer of my behavior. And I realize that if I keep doing the same thing over and over again, and I don't accept, I always say in lectures that I didn't really become this because I'm smart. My impulsive behavior exhausted me, and I became this because I had no other choice. Because once you're aware of something, you go backwards, the price is enormous. You fall on your face very quickly.
Mm.
Yeah, for example, I do have some sciatic nerve pain, and since I've been working with you and Peter, it's gone down.
Wait, we're working together?
Well, you do call me out on my stuff, and very often. So
So if we were live, this would be incredible because people can call and run their nonsense, and in the moment, it's really interesting.
well, we can let some people know about this next time so they can connect, and at the end of the last 20-30 minutes we can give them a chance to ask some questions. It'll be awesome. Yeah, we could do that next Thursday. Just a quick, because we started out talking about community, then we shifted to religion because it's very tied into it, right? So religion and community are incredibly tied together. So in general, I do observe that in this generation or these past 50 years, it's been a decline of knowing how to live in community. It's been a decline in being, going out and interacting one-on-one and tolerating people. And because you said first, my question is, what is your recommendation on what's most essential and best to build community, first of all? That's part one of the question. And part two is, you said
to build.
Yeah. Well, because no man is an island, so we do need a community of people to be around and to get around. But I do understand there's communities that have more conflict, or that are more glued together and they're tighter and stronger, and there are communities that are undone quite quickly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so what's best in order to build a lasting, strong community? First answer that question, then I'll ask you the second part.
The only thing that builds community is a common denominator. And our common denominator is God. I have a yoga community, I have a martial arts community, I have a biker community, I have just plain friends that I know since I'm 11 years old. It's not something you can hold on to. My fighter friends, they're phenomenal. I adore them. They're incredible. It's great man time, but I can only stand them in small increments because they have nothing to say. My yoga community are fantastic, but they constantly want to talk about nothing. It's yoga. It's not a way of life. It's a practice. I should take that back. It is a way of life, but it doesn't create. We can't talk about poses all day long. But what creates my community?
Asana is not yoga, right? Because there's a difference between asanas, the actual physical structure, right, and then yoga is a way of life.
Right. So then what creates community for me is discernment, intellectual discernment. Well, where am I going to do it? Is the news enough intellectual discernment? No. When I read a piece of what's called Tanya, which is mystical discourse on Torah in the morning, then that little tiny sentence gives me an understanding of how to look at reality in a different way. And throughout my day, I think about it because my intellect needs something to overcome and engage in. So I discern through that concept. I constantly discern my reality based on that tiny little concept. And then I encounter people who are physical manifestations of proof of what I now believe to be true per that concept. That's how reality works. So because why is mental illness the biggest epidemic in the world, or substance abuse? Because people are intense and are smart and have souls, and their souls inspire their intellect, and they need to bend their minds around something. They have nothing to think about. What's going to engage you? Joe Biden? What's interesting in the world today? What? Explosions, war, drugs? What do you think people are looking for a quick fix? I was one of them. So I'm telling you, I understand it, because you have an intense intellect. You need something to engage in. When you engage yourself, when you start your day by engaging your intellect in conceptual understanding of how the human experience works, then you just can't help yourself. You apply that, oh, look, wow, that concept really works. It works in my experience with my wife, with my kids, at my job, at this. And so you learn that concept, and then it becomes yours, because now you've used it in your reality, and it becomes yours. So you no longer are defined by your old attachment to your conditioned behavior, because now you have a new concept. So you now become an observer of your own behavior. That's why you need discernment.
Okay. So that's the first part of my question. And the second part is going back to what you first said, which is you need the common denominator factor, which is, a like-minded way of thinking, of approaching things. But I find that we do occasionally need, something different to make us change, to make us progress. So it can't be all the same all the time. Obviously, we do need more of the same in order to be able to interact, see the world in similar thing without living in conflict. But something that's different from our other things.
Hold on. Say that again. You're saying that we need to come out of.
Oh yeah, we need to interact with people and with situations that think different, or that support a different idea of what we have, in order to contemplate, to more profoundly introspect, to create more diversity culture. Do you agree with that or not?
No, I don't. Because the moment I interact, let's say I have friends who I actually have a cousin who went to Peru and studied how to do ayahuasca, and he constantly interacts with folks. I have nothing to say to him. What am I going to say to him? Our perception of reality is different. So that means every aspect of his reality has it ingrained in it his understanding. What is it that we're going to discuss?
No, but that line of thinking can turn very dangerous, because there are people, for example, that don't like immigrants, that don't like people of different cultures because of that. Like, I understand you're not saying that, but it can be interpreted that way. So
different.
Yeah, could you clarify that difference though?
Yeah. So if you're Mexican and I'm Russian, that's talking about your culture. I love Mexicans. They're diligent, hardworking people. They're honorable. They love their families. They're awesome. All the Mexicans that live in my community, now Mexicans are not dishwashers like they were in the 70s. Or they have 112-foot yachts, and they're all docked here in Miami. And so they're intellectuals. They're people of the new generation, educated. It's not the same. My spiritual perception and conscious understanding of reality doesn't segregate me. I can still interact with you and Whitney, even though we're not like-minded people. But ultimately, when I come home, what do I practice? You understand? So what I want to live, getting back to community, what upholds my vibration is living amongst like-minded people. That doesn't mean I'm prejudiced or somehow look down on your practice. You want to be Muslim? God bless you. You love God? I love God. I love you for loving God. But if you say you love God better than I do and my system doesn't work and you want to kill me for it, be ready. I got a gun too. So then we have a conflict. Yeah. So then I'm not better than you. I'm different. I have my perception. You gravitate towards my perception because it resonates with your sense of truth. Well, then that means your soul's sense of truth, the vibrational texture of your soul, is inspiring your intellect to pursue what I'm saying to you, and it's refining you and making you more honest with yourself. Well, that means you must have an increment of a Jewish soul.
That's understandable. That's awesome. One last question before I let Whitney do her last one, and then we can close. There are saints and realized individuals from almost all cultures, right? There's Catholic saints who are Catholic. So what does that mean about each system? Obviously, there's probably a higher percentage of realized individuals from certain cultures, from certain religions, and certain, let's call them technologies, right? Because that's what you were getting around. Like each individual faith gives you a way of understanding and practices, which ends up to be like spiritual technology, right? So how do you explain all these different realized individuals from these different faiths, from these different technologies? And is there like a higher percentage? What makes the technology better for some and not so good for others?
There's two questions here. So is it better? No, it's appropriate for where you are and who you are. Saint Teresa of Avila, she has something called inner mansions and inner castles. It's a 7-hour channeling session. I'm pretty sure she channeled information. She's a Catholic nun. She's a holy person. You listen to her. She's channeling consciousness on how the importance of prayer. But that's just one level of reality, conscious and spiritual and physical reality, where she's addressing a way to connect to the creative force through devotion and prayer. It's so technologically correct. It's so methodical, and it's really, when I say it's impenetrable, it means it's not humanly altered. She's a channel for understanding about prayer. Does that mean it's not good for me or I'm not going to accept it? I listened to every word. It was incredible. Am I Catholic? No, because I don't subscribe to the idea of the master of Christianity being the only son of God. We're all sons and daughters. We're a creation, expression of the creative force. We all have souls. So there's no such thing as a one solid God. It doesn't resonate with me, and it makes no conscious sense. Moreover, a person cannot be an unlimited source of energy. Jesus didn't create us, didn't create the ocean, didn't create the stars. And to insinuate that he died for our sins, well, that means that there should be no sin in the world. And there's still sin, right? So then nobody else can absolve you from your mistakes. You have to make your own corrections. You can't go to a little wooden booth and tell some guy who's diddling little boys, listen, this is what I did, and how many Hail Marys do I say? And now I'm absolved. That doesn't work. So my answer to you is, are there diddlers in my community? Absolutely. They're all in prison. There's a prison in New Jersey for diddlers. But ultimately,
Okay. Just the way you phrase that, man, that's hilarious. Okay.
One's not better than the other. It is what it is for them, for where they are, right? If you believe the master of Christianity is a master, he absolutely was. He came to the world to bring love and understanding. That doesn't make it any less important than Moses. he's appropriate for you, for where you are. You came into this world, your soul resonates with that structure and that texture, then that's what you should be practicing. If you're practicing something else, well, then maybe it's either you elevated your understanding of the conscious reality and it's no longer acceptable to you that some guy's coming back from the sky with bugles and angels. Then you elevate yourself and you go and you practice Islam or Hinduism or Buddhism, if that's what resonates with your sense of truth. Don't practice it because it's the cool thing to do, and you can put beads around your arm and go to Thailand and act like you're Buddhist.
I think that's a great place to end it. Whitney, any closing comments? Vlad, any closing comments?
I'm good. Thank you so much.
Beautiful, guys. This has been Esoteric Sci. Thank you so much for joining us, and check us out on social media. Big hug.